Good evening, everybody. This is the Town of Halifax Planning Board for November 17th at 7 o'clock. Tonight we have Rick Murray, Brendan Elliott, and myself, Amy Troop. The agenda is as read. 7 p.m. we have 8 Hilda Lane Realty Trust with Scott Burgess, 6 and 8 Hilda Lane for a definitive subdivision modification. We have a 715 Ag Realty LLC and Malden Real Redevelopment LLC, 0 and 592 Plymouth Street for a site plan review. And I have a red mark next to that, which will show me that Joanne has responded to Jim Pavlik from Outback Engineering saying, "Thank you for getting back to me. I will tentatively schedule you for December 1st, 2022 meeting." I guess they're still working with conservation, and so they'd like to continue with that before coming to us. I have to read the agenda first and then all right. So I guess we'll be not talking to them tonight. At 7:30, we have Casco Steve Doms with 314 Plymouth Street for a site plan review for urgent care Starbucks Auto Retail. We have discussion for our local Larry Tacos, Larry McDonald Taco Trailer at 940 Plymouth Street. We have bills with Amory Engineering, WB Mason, and Plimpton Halifax Express. We have meeting minutes from November 3rd, 2022, and we have correspondence from notices and letters of other towns and memos or letters from Halifax departments, boards, and committees. We also might have any other unscheduled business following posting of this agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 7 o'clock, we have, 7:09, we have Hilda Lane.
Joe Webby Engineering, and with me is Scott Burgess, excuse me. And we were here before at the beginning of October, and we presented a modification to the approved subdivision known as Hilda Lane, where we would like to reduce the amount of roadway and the amount of new buildable lots from 5 to 2, and reduce the length of the roadway from around 900 to just a little over 500 feet. The board had sent out our plans and drainage calculations out to Amory Engineering. We did receive a review from Pat Brennan, and I guess that's probably where we're going to be starting tonight, going over what Pat's recommendations are, or his concerns. That sounds about right. I don't know if you want to go over these line by line, or how the board wants to handle that.
I would like to go over it line by line.
I think that's the best way.
You guys agree?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I was just seeing who was on Zoom behind you.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start with Pat's letter, his background. The original subdivision known as Brookside Farm was approved by the planning board on November 3rd, 2005. It included a 900 plus or minus foot long dead-end road serving 6 residential lots, one of which contained an existing dwelling, which is this dwelling here. At the time, the current proposal is to reduce the length of the proposed roadway to about 500 feet. It would provide access to 3 residential lots, including the lot with the existing dwelling, and the reduction in the length of the road will eliminate the need to disturb or cross wetlands with the roadway construction. Subdivision is located within an agricultural residential zone. The proposed road would be super elevated to the east side with a 22-foot traveled way and a 12-inch Cape Cod berm along the east side, which would be the right-hand side as we go down. Stormwater runoff would be directed along the east side of the road to a paved swale that would discharge to a sedimentation forebay in this area, an infiltration basin located within the proposed drainage easement on lot 1T. No other utilities are shown on the plan. So we go to the comments. We note that the approved subdivision plan required 6 waivers under chapter 235. Those waivers included, and I'm not going to read the numbers, which requires catch basins on both sides of the road, not more than 300 feet apart. The approved subdivision had a pair of catch basins near the intersection with Haywood Street, which go right up in this area, and on one end of the road, but all the other drainage flowed into the paved swale. The proposed modification is similar to that, and the runoff will flow to a paved swale if there are no proposed catch basins. E1, which requires granite or precast concrete curbing on the curve at all intersections and at the catch basins. The approved plan with Cape Cod berm throughout. Proposed modification has Cape Cod berms on one side of the road and no curbing. So the previous approval had granted that Cape Cod berms. We're proposing one on one side. I think later on in the letter, Pat's going to ask for us to put it on both sides, and that's not a problem. The C1, which requires a 4-foot wide sidewalk on each side of the road. The approved subdivision had one 5-foot wide sidewalk along the east side of the road. In the proposed modification, we are asking for a waiver to have no sidewalks. And so that's something that's going to be up for discussion in a few of the items. C4, which requires a grass plot between the sidewalk and the back of the curb. The approved subdivision had the sidewalk immediately adjacent to the Cape Cod berm. Again, there is no sidewalk proposed, so the entire side of the road will be grass. If a sidewalk is required, we recommend a grass plot between the Cape Cod berm and the sidewalk to provide for a visual barrier between the road and the sidewalk for safety. And we agree with that. A1, which requires drain pipes to be large enough to pass the design storm without a surcharge. According to the description on sheet 1 of the approved plans, the design had a slight surcharge in drain pipes during the 25 to 100 year storm events. The design storm is the 10-year storm event, and this waiver may not have been necessary. The proposed modification does not have any drain piping. Typical roadway section, the approved subdivision sought relief for the variable width grass plot within a portion of the roadway constructed without a crown, super elevated, and the proposed modification also proposes the roadway to be super elevated. What he means by super elevated, or what we mean is that we're tipping the road, basically provide one country drainage so that when the water comes down the pavement, it just all goes on one side instead of having a crown catching on both sides. Okay, so in addition to the above, the proposed modifications would require waivers from the following sections, B4, which limits the grade at the intersection to a maximum of 2% for a distance of 45 feet. We're talking about right here now, from the edge of the intersecting road. The proposed modification has a grade of 2.12%. For about 50 feet, we note that the proposed modification does not show any drainage mitigation for the first 65 feet of the road, which would flow onto Haywood Street. So what Patrick is saying is that from about here, if a raindrop falls here, it's going to go Haywood Street, and he's not comfortable with that. Okay, so this is in violation of 235:6, which requires grading at the intersection to direct flow of the surface water in a suitable manner. We recommend with something similar to the approved plan, which had a pair of catch basins, discharge the water quality unit and then to the subsurface infiltration, consisting of plastic chambers surrounded by crushed stone. This area has also been accounted for in the post-development ISOCAD models. We have no problem putting those catch basins back in those. They're not gonna really take a lot of water, but Patrick is recommending them, and I'm assuming you're gonna go along with it.
Why were you taking them out?
Because we're trying to make the roadways economical as possible without disabilities. So what Pat's talking about is he wants us to infiltrate that 65 feet of road.
And that's the way it's graded now, and that's the way it's been running. It's a dirt road, it's been that way for 30 years.
So basically, I think that's the one thing we got to talk about. Okay, was it two? Okay, so not 2B. Okay, turn the page. E2, which requires the outside roadway diameter of the cul-de-sac turnaround to be 120 feet, which is the pavement. He's talking about the pavement now. The proposed turnaround diameter is about 80 feet, which is now this. So we've taken the outside roadway meets your specifications. The inside cul-de-sac, we've cut that down to the pavement size, again, to reduce the water, surface water that would be coming down into this basin from 120 feet to 80 feet. Okay, the proposed turnaround diameter is about 80 feet. We recommend that the board consult with the fire department to make sure the smaller turnaround is acceptable. We can easily get the turning truck radiuses, and we can provide that for you. Pretty easy. We will easily do that and then leave it up to the board.
And why are we doing that?
Again, to reduce the surface water that's going into the basin.
Okay, any other reasons?
Economics. We're trying to keep a little bit of the roadway. I know we still have we can go to the Conservation Commission, but we're just trying to pull that back also. 23D requires the areas proposed for the drainage area, and that's in this area, be tested for adequate percolation. The test holes logged included the drainage report and calculation were for previous holes located nearer to Haywood Street and not within the footprint of the proposed basin. I've talked to Scott today, and we're going to have to go out there with a machine and dig a couple of holes in the basin. And Patrick is welcome to observe that when that happens. The approved subdivision plans show 2 test pits in that were conducted very close to the proposed basin. The logs for these 2 test pits should be provided, and we can provide that, to verify adequate depth to the seasonal high groundwater, soil texture analysis, and satisfy the requirements of 23D. We have no problem at all going out there and digging a couple of holes.
And then having the stormwater management updated?
Yes.
And the stormwater, excuse me, and
No, not yet.
Okay. Number 4 is there should be a cutoff wall, a concrete curb or similar in the emergency spillway to prevent stormwater from flowing through the riprap. That's easy enough. We can put a head wall there or a cutoff wall. Number 5, a proposed street sign should be shown on the plan. That's a gimme. In accordance with the board, should determine whether or not street lights are required. It's something up to the board. The board should determine whether or not street trees are required. This is very heavily wooded from the son Brian's house to the north. There's several nice trees at Bradford's. I don't think any over there needed, and certainly
we don't have
Relish.
trees.
On the back corner, not along the road.
So I don't know, obviously we can't put any in the basin. We'll leave that up to the board where they want some trees. 31H requires monuments, concrete bounds to be set at the curvatures along the street line, but those are easy to do. Once the roadway is built, we can certainly place concrete bounds at all the turning points. Proposed electric utilities, electric and communication should be shown on the plan and on the typical roadway section. We proposed, I think that was one of the waivers we were asking for, there's a telephone, a utility pole right in this area, this one, and then those are overhead. So Mr. Burgess would really like to put poles in to go overhead. That requires a waiver from your regulations for that to be underground. And then the proposed roadway and lots are located in a priority habitat mapped by Natural Heritage and the Endangered Species Program. This will require filing with NHESP. We will be doing that momentarily, pretty quickly, because we have to file with the Conservation Commission. That'll be our next step. And then he made that the bar scales on sheet 2 and 3 are incorrect and they should be fixed. So that's basically the Pat's comments.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Webby?
My only thing that was, at this point, was just what the fire chief wrote in his letter to us.
Okay.
I want to make sure that there will be a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac installed to Halifax Water Department specifications. I think anytime a letter comes from our chief of fire, that's something serious to take into consideration. So just to note that at this point.
I have his letter here, so
Okay.
The water department requires if it's more than 500 feet, you have to have a hydrant. It's only 480. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hydrant, I think, believe right opposite
Right.
the Bradford's house across the street, so that's right about in this area.
So if you were, instead of cutting down the cul-de-sac from 120 to 80, which is cutting it by 40%, you would then be over the 500 feet? How
But-
convenient.
But hold on, but hold on, it doesn't state anything about the length of this road. We talked about that the last time.
No, I'm just saying, I get that. It's just saying, to Mr. Burgess' point, it says to install to Halifax Water Department specifications. Halifax water specifications is saying if it's 500 or more feet, then you have to have a fire hydrant. We're knocking it down from 120 to 80, which drops it 20 feet below 500 feet. So that kind of ties back into the cutting it down of things. So if that's allowed, then everything else falls in line. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
For economic purposes.
but the fire department doesn't state anything about length, and therefore I would say that it doesn't matter. Like that would circumvent that, I would think, or overrule
Well, he
that.
said Halifax Water Department specs. So
Right.
whatever.
Right. So I'm not saying that we have to make a decision on that one way or another right now. I'm just pointing it out that that was a letter that was submitted by the chief of police. So, I mean, fire chief. So we should take that into consideration when we're having all these waiver conversations as well. That's all for now.
I would want something in water from something in writing from the water department that states that the specification, because the way I interpret this is I want to make sure that there will be a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac installed to Halifax Water Department as specifications. It doesn't state the length of the street specifications. I consider that as what the size of the piping and all of that would be. I don't consider that to be that there won't be a hydrant. I consider that there will be a hydrant and that it'll be installed with the correct piping.
Okay.
Otherwise, he would say, I would want there a hydrant if the water department, but our 235 in our subdivision control, it states that there must be a hydrant.
Okay.
I'll find that law. Okay, so the Board of Health has a letter in that says attached is the plan for a proposed subdivision modification for 6 and 8 Hill Lane. And he has a question, sheet 4 of 4, the construction sequence, number 6, construct new building, where? location, where are the perks, where are the location of the perks, wells, where are the location of the wells? Will it need an approved SAS? SAS, what's an SAS?
Soil absorption system,
Okay.
leaching field.
So we don't have that information on the plans as well, I would say.
We can easily put that on. Well, I think I gotta, if we're putting a water line in, we don't need wells. Well, yeah, we wouldn't need wells, obviously. So I think it does beg the question whether or not.
It seems like everything's just kind of connected in a different way. Like if we approve the shrinking of 120 to 80, then it falls under the water guidelines for the hydrant. I know your interpretation, I'm just saying by way of that. So if we approve that, then he's technically under 500 feet. If we don't approve that, then he's not over 500 feet. So that clears the, like there's connections here to every point that they brought up. Like A is connected to 2F, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where this is going to get interesting. So,
You caught up?
Oh, yeah, it's very interesting.
Do you have any thoughts to share or any questions?
Well, you know, I mean, I can understand not wanting the water and this and that, because it just cranks up the cost, and all you're getting out of it is what, 2 lots, 1 lot. It's all expensive driveway, you know, that's what
It's insane.
it is. It's very costly. It just makes it, is it literally worthwhile?
It wouldn't be.
No. So that's the whole reason they're trying to do this, so you can afford to put a house in it. That's all. That's how I see
Something along
it.
there.
do we have an obligation to stick to the bylaws, whether no matter what the cost of goods are or not? That would be my question.
Yes, because, well, the question would be whether or not it is a detriment to the rest of the residents in the town and the area and the abutting areas. These laws are put in to protect the surrounding areas.
No, I get that. So what
And
I,
if we allow.
where I'm trying to come from a more of a common sense side than a bylaw side is just obviously, to your point, if you had to do everything on here by the letter of the law, it's absurdly expensive and it wouldn't be worth it. So do we shortcut some of the bylaws that are there to protect the butters and residents because of just the cost of goods are high? Or are those within reason for cutting because they won't really affect the rest of the residents? That's, I think, the question on the table. But I don't feel comfortable shortcutting bylaws just because the cost of goods are 60% overpriced. That's all. So I think that's what we have to get to the bottom of tonight. I'm not saying one way or another. I just think that that's the underlying question here is, are the modifications enough to be able to fit into the plan economically, but also not strip away what everybody else in town has to adhere to in order to put 2 lots in?
Well, I think that the water and the utilities have different weights. I can say it that way. We already have poles that go down near the water zone. So if you allow him to go overhead, then really he's only talking about putting 2 poles that are overhead wires like every street has. Okay, so that's, you can look at that a little bit different than the safety issue from the fire department.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Yep.
So in the Cape Cod burns, the previous approval already approved Cape Cod burns over the granite or the concrete curbs. Sidewalk, I think, is another one of those things, well, okay, do we really need a sidewalk? I guess that's something that, it's not really for the,
Well, common sense will tell you don't, that it's just what, a few houses, and nobody really need it.
but those are some, I think there's different weights in some of the.
Yeah, right. I got you.
Yes.
Yep, for sure.
I don't know, I mean, like, right now, I'm sitting here looking at the fact that we don't have the drainage report done correctly because we need holes put in the correct spots. So I think that probably what our first thought should be, in my opinion, as a board member, is to have them do the correct test basins, or test pits in the correct spots with Pat Brennan of Armory Engineering witnessing them, they should, update the Haywood Street drainage and get closer to where you would be and give us an extension on your site plan and come back when that's done. That's what I would think would be a good idea if I could get.
I kind of agree with Amy a little bit. We can eliminate 80% of these, by just
Especially
doing
one
some
that-
doing some additional work, and then we're gonna still save a couple of these other issues.
The big kickers are water main.
Right.
It's
not cheap.
The water main's a big ticket.
Right.
It'd be nice to have a main there with a hydrant, sure, you know,
Right.
but
And also, I mean, tricking it from 120 to 80. I mean, if it works, then I can only imagine the savings of cost that would put to the balance sheet of that project. I mean, that if it can be done, then of course we want you to be able to do that. It's just whether or not that's the right thing to do. So that's what we have to figure out.
And then the other large ticket item is the water and how it will drain and affect the neighboring houses. And now the new item of it needing to go to National Heritage and NHESP, because that's a big one that we can't remove or do anything until they approve.
That's gonna go through conservation. In other words, they're the ones that,
Right, but it's on here and it needs to happen, so those are, some giant things.
Sorry,
No,
didn't
go
mean to
ahead.
step on you.
No, you're good.
Before we open it up to the public, you had just made a comment that there's certain things that would probably knock 80% of this list out. Could you talk through that? Because I would think that instead of trying to navigate through 15 different points, if there's a way to come back at the next meeting with, we took care of 12 out of 15, now we have the big three, that might be a little bit more of a constructive conversation.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's what, I think that is gonna be the progression.
So what would that look like? Talk to me about what knocks 80% of this list out. Like, what can you do to get this list down to the big three?
Okay, so, let's discuss
big.
something like the sidewalk. And Pat made two comments about the grass strips. Okay, so if we have a sidewalk, we have a grass strip. If we don't have a sidewalk, we don't have the grass strip. Trees, tell us what you want for trees.
Okay.
There's a couple easy. We've agreed that this will all go back to the way it was originally approved. Yeah, throw a couple catch basins that'll infiltrate there and then ultimately spill off and get into and go in that direction. To the Cape Cod berms, you've already granted, well, you haven't, but the previous approval granted the Cape Cod berms. So do you want just one or do you want two?
well, what do you need two for if you're gonna?
If we're gonna super elevate, we don't really need a berm on that side. And grade at number 2, that was an easy one. A couple of house cleaning ones with the bar scales. Those are easy. Fire department's an issue. Drainage report's easy. Cut off wall in here, that's a just go ahead wall in there. Street signs, we know we need a street sign.
Right.
Okay, street lights.
Is there nothing out there now?
Is there anything out there, Mark?
No, just at the corner.
Yeah, do you want a street light? A street light would be, if it's needed, it's gonna be at the intersection, or typically at the intersection.
I'd lean toward other things rather than the streetlight.
You know, it is Halifax, if you know what
Yeah.
I mean. Street trees, he's mentioned that again. Setting of the concrete bounds, again, that's simple for us. The underground utilities, whether you want them overhead or underground.
Right.
It's not a huge item, but it saves money.
Yeah.
And natural heritage, and yeah, basically think those are the toughest thing is the fire.
Well, I think it's shrinking 100 to 80, 120 to 80, and then the fire hydrant. I think those would be the two big things that couldn't just easily be knocked off by making some small adjustments. I think those are probably, and I would imagine that by the attendance here tonight, that's probably two of the bigger conversations that people would like to discuss. If I had to say, I've learned a little in my time here so far. So. Well, I think it's nice to be able to shrink this list, so let's try to attempt to do that before we start opening it up, right? And I would assume that can be done before the next meeting?
Yes, 2 weeks is fine.
Okay. That's all I have.
Do you want me to read letters out loud, or would you guys like to open it up and you read any letters out loud? I don't mind reading them for you if you would like.
That one came before the last meeting.
Oh, okay, right, so we did kind of
No,
read
you
that one.
didn't read it.
No, we didn't?
So before you read it, just real quick,
Mhm.
she's had her hand up
Oh.
for 15 minutes.
Oh, sorry,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just,
How you doing, Joe? I said conservation too, but I'm speaking as a resident. Kimberly King, Kavicki, 668 Plymouth Street. Our stormwater regulations we passed includes postage lots for permits now. Just as a reminder to anyone that needs to do work and things, it's no longer an acre or over a half acre. It's literally postage size lots and things like that, that go on. And
What do you mean, honey? I don't understand.
so, you know how you have 0.25 acres, 0.35, 0.5 an acre and so, your much smaller lots without, like, no yard, like the homes in the Avs and things, now require stormwater regulations and permits to do any type of work.
Okay.
And the fines and the fees have all been put in. And I think the board should be aware of that.
Well, we are having stormwater management involved in this.
No, I understand that, and I know that Mr. Webby knows that it falls under the jurisdiction of conservation.
Okay.
But I do agree with the board, there's a lot of concerns here. And with the neighbors, there's a lot of concerns.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of cleanup is needed.
Did you say that it was allowed on sidewalks?
That I'm not sure.
Oh,
It is in 235, yeah.
there.
Yeah. That would be,
Right.
I have to find the exact number of the law of where it is, but.
With the sidewalks, can the board waiver the sidewalks if the children are not walking up to the main road?
So waivers waivers and variances are only given by hardship, and they're not to be given out lightly. The
Correct.
reason that these laws are in place are to protect everyone. So if you allow, for instance, because we're conservation talking and, right, if you allow somebody, for instance, to dig within 200 feet of the lake and they dig down, and they received a variance to do so to enlarge their footprint, first of all, it's against DEP. Second of all, it can affect the neighbors. And, because like if you take a glass, right, and you have it half full of water and you keep throwing things in it, what happens to the water? The water comes up and it overflows, so it starts to affect the neighbors. In Real Estate 101 is you can't do anything to affect your neighbor's land, to adversely affect their land. It's illegal.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
with the sidewalks, my question is the school bus going down where it would be a safety thing? Or, because it's not gonna be a safety thing having no sidewalk if the school buses is going down the road. It's gonna be a safety thing if the kids have to walk up to the main road.
Well, right now, I think
And
that,
the sidewalk doesn't adversely affect neighbors. And it doesn't adversely affect water tables or anything like that. Having more grass there would actually absorb
yeah,
more
no,
water.
in the point of a sidewalk, I was just giving one example of an idea of what would be a reason why bylaws have to be followed, not getting specific on sidewalks and things like that.
My
For-
question's specific though. Amy.
Yep. So as far as the sidewalk goes, I would say that we'd have to look at it and talk to everybody and get to an agreement on whether or not it should be waived or not. We're not allowed to vary it or allow, waive anything if it would be a detriment to the abutters or the town. The sidewalk, I feel like I'm gonna look for this for a minute.
So do you want to just open it up to the public
Yeah, I
to
do.
discuss, raise your
That-
hand and be
yes.
called on it? And the only thing that we ask now is when we open it up to the public, if you have anything to say, please say it to the board directly, not to anybody else that's in the room. Let us mediate, please, politely. Thank you. So if you got something to say, which is why you guys are all here, positive, negative, or indifferent, now's your chance to speak.
I do have your answer. It's 235. Dash 31 C 1. Sorry. C1 through 6. You can take a picture of this after the meeting or something like that, or else I can pass this book to you now. Anybody want to speak?
Do you have my letter?
Would you like me to read
Sure.
that? I'm going to read into record a letter from an abutter for their request. Mark and Diane Bradford at 131 Haywood Street in Halifax wrote on October 19th to the town of Halifax, Dear Town Halifax Planning Board, unfortunately they were unable to attend the meeting on October 20th, but they were submitting a letter in hopes that you will take into consideration their concerns regarding the project on Hilda Lane. The Bradfords have been abutters to this parcel of land for 34 years. Their home is on the corner lot of Haywood Street and Hilda Lane. While they have no problem with 2 house lots being built on Hilda Lane, we want to make sure these are single-family homes, such as those that are owned by all the abutters, and to also confirm that in the future, Lot 8 will not be broken up into more house lots given the land size. The current condition of Haywood Street is poor, with many potholes and ongoing flooding issues. We are worried the development will only play a role in making this matter much worse. Also, the Bradfords have included some pictures of Palmer Mill Brook and how high the water table gets. Diverting more water into that area can only make it more problematic. They strongly disagree with the listed bylaws being changed and requested they stay in effect. 1. 235-21AC, which is changing the pavement from 30 feet to 22 feet. The Bradfords do not see why 30 feet is unreasonable and would appreciate further explanation. 2. Chapter 235-31B1AB, which is to allow Cape Cod berms instead of granite curbing. They often have asphalt in their yard due to the current condition of Haywood Street. Not only will granite curbing look nicer, but it is also much stronger, and they feel it is necessary for any new development going forward. 3. Chapter 235-31C1 is to allow no sidewalks instead of 1 as approved. A sidewalk would only benefit all of us, especially for our safety. They, as longtime Halifax residents, appreciate us hearing their concerns and taking them into consideration. Absolutely. I also have a letter from you, but it's probably passe at this point in time. Because you good? Is there anybody else here that would like to speak? Okay. Alright, so, what do you think?
I think we gotta get this list down.
Okay,
I think if there can be another meeting where a majority of this list can be knocked out, and then we can have a better focus on some of the bigger topics,
okay.
it will give people a better idea of what needs to be discussed.
So I would entertain a motion that they would suffice in the Armory engineer letter, number 3, with Pat Brennan to witness, and take care of all of the other items as much as humanly possible.
So before we do that, let's do our job by knocking out and asking some of the people that are in the room that are abutters, right? One of them is overhead or underground wiring, right? Is there an abutters feeling towards one or the other? Does it not matter?
Both of them.
Okay, so that's easy, right? And just saying that obviously the abutters' opinion matters.
No, I
when it
like
comes
that
time
idea,
whether or
that's
not
a
we're
really
going
good
to-
idea, I like that.
Right, we'll go down these, not line by line again, but the ones that we can knock off tonight, let's knock them out, right? The trees that are required, what does it say that it's required in the bylaws? Let's see if we can't make this easier for you. While she's looking that up, fixing the drainage at the end of the street that you guys talked about, bringing that back in, that will significantly help the water flow drainage not going on to Hayward.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, that's what it's designed to do, is to keep the water out of Hayward. Okay.
Does that mean storm drains at the bottom then?
Yeah,
Yes.
Catch basins.
Yes, catch basins?
Right, yeah, 2 catch basins right on Hilda Lane just before Hayward.
Okay.
So they would build up the side of the road to funnel it to them, or the berm?
We can't put water onto Hayward Street, and we certainly don't want any of Hayward Street coming onto Hilda either. Like, you know what I mean? So we want to only collect the water coming from
So
Hilda.
how do you kind of funnel it, I guess?
Well, it's a transition that has to happen. It's a berm.
The berm.
How come you don't want to put it on 2 sides? You only want to put it on one side of the street?
No,
Berm?
there'll be 2 catch basins.
No, the
Yeah.
berm.
Yeah, but the berm will be along Hayward Street. In other words, we gotta fix, once we get into here, part of Hayward Street's gonna have to be fixed up a little. Yeah. So at that point in time, we will create a small berm at Hayward, so that the water on Hayward stays on Hayward. And the water on Hilda stays on Hilda.
So
Right.
that those would be the granite or the,
No, this will be just a asphalt. We can do that
Asphalt.
with just a couple of inches of asphalt. Yeah, but you're still gonna be driving the road.
Right.
oh, okay, so we're not talking about the side, we're talking about the road side.
so you still have to throw stone on the basins, or just asphalt?
We're gonna have to have,
Yeah.
we have to have the road stone. If we put a catch basin on it.
Yeah.
But we have a catch basin now at Hayward Street, I know it's got nothing to do with this, but it overflows. It can't handle the rain.
I don't
And
know.
what size are they gonna be, I guess, my question. Catch basins.
We're only,
Only 60 feet.
we're only picking 65 feet of water up here.
Yeah, so on there, from what I gather, the water is gonna be great, the street's gonna be graded, so everything from the top of the cul-de-sac all the way down to within 60 feet is gonna drain off to the right of that site plan.
So what time
But
is
then
it?
from 60 What do you say?
Okay, to the right. yeah.
To the right.
Okay.
And then from 60 feet down to the Hayward, that's really the only space that is going to catch rain to go into those catch basins. So it's not like it's going to be draining down the whole street like a river and catching into those catch basins.
I just want to check one thing with the low point is. So the low point is around 3.7. Yeah, so right around this area right here where the spillway is, this water's coming down to here. From here is there is going to there, and then from here to there is going to go into catch basins and then into the swale.
Right. So there's multiple points of water
Pitch.
relief.
So you
Yep.
pitch.
Right. Which obviously, if you removed that at the end, that would create a bigger issue because now all that water that's going from 60 feet down would then go be draining into Hayward, causes a bigger issue, and then there's more overflow, right? So, okay, so that was one of the lists, so we knocked that out. You said no on the street lights because you'd rather focus on other areas. So that is, I don't think it would be a waiver, would it? Technically?
For a sidewalk?
No, street light.
Oh, sorry, street light.
Subdivision control.
Yeah, it is.
So it would be.
All utility poles, fire hydrants,
Okay.
or street.
But it seems as though that's something that we can easily and amicably knock off the list if the abutters are okay with it, which it seems like they are. Which would open up.
Because, yes, as long as everybody was okay with it and we didn't have any, issues with that.
Okay, so let's do this real quick, guys. If anybody has a problem with us waiving the street light, speak now or forever hold your peace. Cool.
I don't know, did everybody hear that? Because they were talking.
Oh, I heard it. That's the third time
I'm
that we
just
talked
making
about the
sure.
street
I
light,
just
so.
said before that,
Seems like we got it. Because again, before we start handing out waivers, we need to make sure that it's okay with the abutters, right? So that's the main point.
Yeah, I just asked, I mean, do you have a post light in your driveway?
No,
Outdoor post?
no.
Okay, I know Brian has one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a post light here on this one. Bradford's, their house is going on
Are you
here.
looking up trees?
So that's-
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'd like to know what the bylaw says, and then we can work through what we would be able to compromise on, if a compromise is needed.
Here it is. Street trees not less than 12 feet in height and of a species approved by the Park Commission shall be planted on each side of every street in the subdivision wherever, in the opinion of the planning board, existing woodlands or suitable individual trees are not retained. Trees shall be located outside of exterior street lines and at such distance therefrom, and at such spacing as the planning board shall specify in accordance with the most recent general practice of the town in planting trees on private property along public ways.
So it's up to our discretion to require a certain amount of trees.
Mhm.
you'd almost have to go down and physically look at the place to see.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
think
not a
we should
big
make
fan
a
of, I'm
field
not a
trip.
big fan of street trees anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, just before the next meeting, everybody go down the street and take a look.
A lot of subdivisions, as time goes by,
Yeah,
they
right.
start heaving up the sidewalks and they grow in, you can't even drive down the streets.
Right.
But, you know, that's what they required for years. And I just always thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it's nice having more trees, sure, but
Right.
sometimes they just make them too close to the road and
Right.
they end up destroying the, I've done subdivisions where you plant these little trees, you come back 15 years later and you
Yeah.
can't even walk down the sidewalk because the roots have all heaved the walks up and
Right.
you
Maybe
can't,
like
you're
on the
you're
south.
taking your mirrors off the truck going down the road because the trees are growing in so much. So there's a lot of consideration to be taken of trees.
More leaves to rake up in the fall.
Yeah, that too. But,
Unless you put in evergreens.
But usually they don't use evergreens for street trees. Bradford pears,
yeah, sure.
ash, things like that.
No, I know, I'm just teasing you. Okay, and then, the water line is certainly a contention.
Right. So.
Water line's the big one.
Yeah, so I think the probably aside from just the pavement cost and the water line, the granite sidewalk, whether we're even gonna have a sidewalk or not. But obviously, an abutter has requested that a sidewalk would only benefit everybody, right?
How many houses is this road gonna be serviced? How many people are gonna live on this road and they use it?
1, 2,
1, 2,
3, 4,
3, 4,
5.
5 houses?
In
So,
Diane?
Hayward Street, we have nowhere to walk.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse by the day.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some big trucks coming in. It's gonna only make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the sidewalk would be nice to walk on.
Agree. There's a lot of talk about sidewalk. Do you want me to read them all?
not really. I think that we need to figure out if the sidewalk needs to go in before we start diving in on all that.
It does.
It does, okay, then we have to dive in on it. Now the conversation is whether or not we're doing the Cape Cod berm or granite.
Well, the previous subdivision already granted the waiver to go to Cape Cod berm. I think the question really is do we need 2 Cape Cod berm on both sides?
But this is a modification, so we
Yeah,
are
you can say
changing.
any point, right, yeah, that's fine, if you want us to go back, but we can still put a sidewalk in with Cape Cod berm,
Right,
as long as we have that grass strip so that it protects the pedestrians.
right.
I think that's probably, I don't know if Cranberry Farms or Bosworth, if they have. Do you have Cape Cod berm on there? No. That's basically what you guys have always approved, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they have in
I'm just making
Highland.
a point.
Yeah.
That's what we have in Highland Estates too, is all, there's no granite down there.
Just a catch basin?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a pretty good compromise. It's a lot of things to say if we're gonna, it seems as though not only does it state that we need to have sidewalks, but if it's not a granite one and we can help from an economic standpoint, I think that's a good I think that would be a good compromise to say they'll put sidewalks in, but not granite.
But just one side, though. You don't need both sides sidewalks.
Right.
Yeah, casino, that's.
Where do the sidewalks go to?
Huh?
Where's the closest sidewalk that they would connect to?
It
I
doesn't
don't know.
matter.
Yeah.
Is there any
Just
sidewalk?
curious.
Yeah, right.
Eventually Hayward Street's gonna hopefully be done. Unfortunately, we spent money on complete streets like idiots. Okay, so, and then we definitely need the stormwater management to be redone before we even talk about anything
Yeah,
else.
that was already agreed that that's gonna be done by the next meeting.
And then I'm a stickler for this fire hydrant to go in. And I would love to check with the radius on the road and the cul-de-sac.
Well, it would only be, the outside radius meets your regulation. The street.
But I wanna
This is
make
pretty
sure
much coming down to
with
the
the
fire
fire.
chief's letter.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right.
Radius for a fire engine and a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac.
So how much, just out of curiosity, how much land are you, or how much, street, if you will, are you cutting out from the portion of road layout to be abandoned? How much is that?
It was about 400 feet.
Okay. So that's
From what was approved down to.
Yeah, right.
About 400.
So that's a significant drop
Right.
in on an overhead balance sheet.
Yeah, but we're also taking
Right.
away 3 lots.
Right, okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah. Okay. Did we, before we moved on, did we agreeing on the sidewalks on one side to be approved for Cape Cod berm?
I think we should, before we even get there, because of stormwater management, and there might be something to do with that
Okay.
involved, I think that we need that to be fixed since the holes were not tested in the correct spot.
Okay. So you're thinking that a sidewalk on both sides would affect the stormwater drainage?
It would.
It's possible.
Okay. And what were you gonna say?
One sidewalk.
No. We're waiting for stormwater management to determine whether or not any of these things would deter it. We don't have the test hole done in the right spot. We need that done first before we will talk about anything.
No, we're talking about whether, I thought I just heard
But
a sidewalk on both sides.
Right, no, so my question is,
we're not going there yet.
my question was, is it in the bylaws that says that there needs to be a sidewalk on both sides?
So there is, and at the end, this is not geared to make it economical for anyone.
No, that was my first statement, I
This
totally
is
understand.
strict 235-44, waiving of compliance. Strict compliance with the requirements of these rules and regulations may be waived when, in the judgment of the board, such action is in the public interest and not inconsistent with the subdivision control law.
Yep.
So,
So my question is it in our bylaws that it says that we need to have 2 sidewalks?
yes.
It is. So that would require a waiver to drop down to 1 and to say Cape Cod berm instead of granite. So those are 2 additional
Right.
waivers, which
Which I don't
again, if
think
there's a
we-
concession from the abutters.
We don't want that yet because we need to consider stormwater management.
I understand.
Yeah.
I was just asking for clarification. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Do you want me to lay out what I think that the motion should be, or do you got it, Brendan?
no, you're definitely gonna make the motion because you
Well-
got it in your head. I just wanna see if there's anything else we can check off tonight because it's at our discretion.
Well, they need to update the plan with everything else that's on here. I don't think there was anything else besides they have to go to conservation and open up the National Heritage and Endangered Species. The underground utilities we've come by. The bar scales, he's obviously gonna do that. It's
Mhm.
like easy, right?
Mhm.
Monuments, obviously that needs to be done. That's just showing it on the plan, right?
Mhm.
Street trees. We're gonna all take a little field trip down Hilda Lane in the next couple of weeks and, check that out.
From the abutters, knowing your street or knowing that street, is there a feeling on the trees? An opinion one way or another so that while we take our field trip, we can take into consideration how the residents feel. Conservation?
You need more leaves.
It all depends on stormwater management.
Okay.
And there might be something else that MDR and others have put out there, like when we were looking at erosion control and other things on the lakes and other areas.
Mhm.
We could have went with trees, but there are 100 other better options that would eliminate roots coming up from the sidewalks, that would
I
eliminate
gotcha.
branches, trees, and other things that may or may not be efficient enough to meet the qualification and bylaws on plan.
So, we got the drainage at the end taken care of. We got the overhead utility lines taken care of. We got the street light topic taken care of. Obviously, a street sign is going to be taken care of. The bar scales, the water treatment needs to be done. I'm sorry, the drainage report needs to be done, and I think that opens up the conversation to next time having the tough one about reducing from 120 to 80 and perhaps having another conversation with the fire chief as we go on our field trip, individually, might I add, to stop in and say, is this something that you're saying that if it goes in, it needs to meet requirements, or whether that it's not an option in your opinion as the chief that it has to go in?
Well, it's part of 235 that we have a hydrant back there and town water back there. So it's also getting away from the town water that is part of what we need to have for the road.
Okay. Well, I've been meaning to introduce myself to the fire chief anyway, so it looks like it's a perfect opportunity to knock a couple birds out with one stone.
I would want him to update the letter so that it would be consistent, because remember the last time, we had the fire chief send in a letter and then somebody else giving hearsay on what the fire chief said, and then it was just his notes.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, it'll be...
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of, I mean, that's knocking out, just here tonight, that knocked out half the list. And then once you get the drainage report and make the adjustments to the site plan, that knocks out 80% of the rest of the list, which leaves about 2 or 3 really big topics. But at least it's not 15 topics.
Is there anything that the residents feel is not okay with what we're discussing?
Well, they're at Concom, I triple check to make sure they don't need their stormwater management permit.
Well, they do need stormwater management.
I know that, but we require a permit in Halifax,
Okay.
even before they dig or do wells or do tests, so.
Okay.
Is
Well,
there
that
any-
would be part of, I
Yeah,
guess.
we passed them at our last town meeting.
Yeah. Yes, and we would need the National Heritage. I'm just gonna say National Heritage, try to say that.
It's one of the
Right
properties
off.
in town that's
Okay.
actually marked correctly, so if you go on your field trip and you actually get out and walk it, you should actually see the flagged property. It's actually one of National Heritage's correctly flagged properties in town. It's kind of cool.
Correctly what?
Flagged town
Oh.
properties. National Heritage is supposed to flag the properties.
Okay.
Supposed to, not that it's always done, but they're supposed to.
So I'm going to
Is there
say,
anything that you would like to add? Because you're here as the applicant, so I feel it's only fair to allow you guys to speak.
Being a good boy. My wife told me,
Less is more sometimes,
I
right?
brought my attorney. Keep me out of trouble.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, we feel like we're starting to make a little bit of progress here, knocking out some of the lists, some compromise, right? Obviously, more houses, more property that are developed, taxes, that implements the whole town. As long as it's done right, that's what we're here for. That's why everybody's here, so I think we're getting there.
and this is a public hearing and it is continued from Thursday, October 20th, 2022.
So do we want to make your motion now?
Well, I was thinking that we would use the Amory Engineering letter and state that we need, how am I gonna word this?
I know how to word it, but it probably won't sound as
How
formal
about, how about we,
as.
how about we work it together then, go.
Well, I just think we're here, right? We're all having the same conversation. So what we're trying to do is knock this list out. So my motion would be that Mr. Webby, knowing what we're looking for between now and the next meeting, knocks out as much of this list that he's in control of being able to eliminate with a storm drainage report and adjusting the site plan, so that this list dwindles to nothing.
Okay, I like it, so can I brush it off then?
Yeah.
Okay. Looking at, I moved to have a motion, for 6 to 8 Hilda Lane definitive modification from the letter on November 1st, 2022 from, Amory Engineering, that we deal with any of the paragraphs and any of his comments to update them to include 1A, B, C, D, E, F, 2A, 2B, 3 with Pat to witness those holes, 4, and then making the adjustments to the plan of 5, 6, 7, 8. We have agreed to 9, being that we won't have underground utilities for electricity and communication. 10, which they need to file with conservation and National Heritage and Endangered Species. And they need to also get the permit for 235-23D. And I heard that, so I will say add DEP to the National Heritage Endangered Species. And you'll update 11. Can I get that moved?
I think you want to ask for continuance to.
Yes.
Date certain.
We will, yes, and we're gonna need an extension on this from, 11/19 to, can we have a 45-day where we have holidays and everything, just to be sure and not go over?
Sure.
Can I get the motion moved?
I second it. Or, yeah.
You have to move it.
I move
It's on
it,
the
yeah, I
chair.
move it. There you go, sorry. The longest, I mean, I'm not repeating that. So whatever she said, I move that.
Next meeting.
The longest motion in the history of the planning board. So we need a second?
And
Hold on.
then we'll do it after this motion.
second
then. Second it, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And, do you think that you'll be able to do this by December 1st with the Thanksgiving holiday? And we are a really tight schedule, so will you go to the next?
Well, I think that the easiest way is to continue to December 1st, and if we're not ready, we just ask for another continuance.
Okay, well, we're asking for an extension on the whole entire plan.
Well, I think that.
For
that's what
45 days.
Scott, yeah.
Yep.
It's been 4 years now.
So,
So
That's yes.
we're gonna need a 45-day extension from you.
Yep.
And we will continue this hearing for a date certain, December 1st at 7:30.
Very good. Thank you very much.
look forward to a smaller list to discuss.
Can I cover everything?
I freaking hope so. Other than maybe the Bible, I don't know what else you could have read.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks, Joe. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. There you go. Hey, we knocked out some stuff. That's progress.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick.
Okay. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess. All right, guys, we're gonna get back to the meeting.
We need a gavel.
Hey, I've got one that's like
Yo.
this big at home.
Coach.
Go, go. Oh, wait a minute, 7:15? You telling me to sit down now?
Okay.
Good, thank you.
So at the beginning of the meeting, we read out loud that Pavlik from Outback Engineering sent in that they are still working with conservation and would like to continue it after that.
Can we say anything? Or not?
Yeah. I'll open it up to the public.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
There's not
Okay.
much else to say.
Bring it.
I happened to stop into the conservation, and I guess they're still looking at, they needed to reflag the conservation area. And my question to them was, who does that reflagging, who pays for it? Is it the group that is, has the land, or is it an independent group?
Or is it the town?
Or is it the town? I think, I don't know if you have that answer.
I would, well,
think
we
it was
have
a-
somebody from conservation, but my guess is that it would be the developer.
I think they told me it was independent.
Okay. Kim?
It's gonna be a third party from the developer.
And who's paying for it?
That
The
answer I
developer.
do not have off the top of my head, because it's gonna be on our next meeting agenda, because we're hiring consultants, because we have a lot of concerns with soil and other things too.
Okay.
And because if it's conservation land, it wouldn't fall on the developer, it would fall on the taxpayers, because it's owned by the town.
What's owned by the town?
The conservation, if it's, the conservation property is owned by the town, it would fall on the taxpayer.
We would
But-
have to pay for that, for them to go in.
No, it's okay. Hygiene.
The reflagging would be the town's responsibility.
Who
It should
owns
be-
the lot?
Even, it all depends, because you have two tax rates, and that would be an assessor's office question.
We only have one tax rate in the town.
No, you have two. You have a buildable lot and non-buildable lot, and your non-buildable lots are
But
conservation.
but they're also, they're rated at the same rate per 1,000.
They're not. We've already been through this with the assessor's office, and they were infuriated that they watched conservation's meeting. that there was the wrong information given out. So after we got the letter from the assessor's office, I went and had a really long talk with Holly to completely understand it. And what's really frustrating is the assessor's office uses one system, conservation uses another, the building department uses another, the board of health has a different system. Nothing coincides.
Got it.
They don't even use the same codes.
So wait a minute, so if that lot is privately owned, which it is, then why wouldn't they be paying for their flagging?
Because they're flagging conservation.
They're flagging conservation.
Yeah, but conservation can be on any private lot and the owner would,
They were looking for a variance, I think, weren't they, for 2 feet of conservation to be able to build on? I thought that's why they went to conservation.
Yeah, originally they wanted
needed
to-
2 feet into conservation to do something, to be able to do their plan. But I feel like they kind of
continued
changed
for the-
plans though, like what he was building.
They did.
When they first presented it, it's very different and the location is different than it was. So is it still the same need for to get a variance?
He still needs conservation, but the way it was written and the way they wanted to go into the wetlands and the 50-foot no-touch, there was no way they were getting approved. So they had to change their plans.
Yeah, because they didn't talk about the 2-foot variance at the last meeting.
Right.
Right.
The first one they did, but they didn't on the last one. It was absent.
Of course. They're
And
still
then they
looking
have-
for a variance.
And it's really hard to find updated bylaws online or anywhere else until you come into town hall and effectively talk to someone who
So-
actually.
so is it conservation or is it just wetlands?
Still trying to figure it out, that's why we're hiring.
Well, conservation is,
And our
conservation, wetland is wetland. You can have wetland on private property.
Right,
But
right.
conservation
It's
isn't owned
different.
privately.
Right, and
It's different animal.
I was thinking of the wetlands and
Well, you
it
can have
went to
wetland anywhere,
conservation.
sure. You get a
No, I
flag.
know that.
I mean, you
yeah.
could have a venom pool and you still can't build in a 50-foot no-touch area.
Yeah.
You-
No, I
mean, a
understand that.
puddle and all sorts of other things,
Yeah.
and some of the
conservation.
federal laws and now the Clean Water Act and other things that the towns have to follow makes it almost impossible. And it's definitely not cost effective. I mean, and that goes for people who use lawn fertilizer, mowing your lawn, doing this, almost anything. you know?
Okay.
I mean,
When is your next meeting?
our next meeting is next Tuesday. And this
The
subject.
22nd?
The 22nd. And I believe they're most likely going to continue this topic again until December 1st. Because I highly doubt that any of the engineers and others will be out.
So,
It's one of those things that's gonna take time.
So your meeting's the same time as this meeting?
We don't have a meeting. Oh, you mean on
Yeah,
December
December
1st?
1st.
Sorry, I wasn't even thinking of that. You have a meeting on
We have a
December?
meeting on December 1st too.
Oh,
Are you at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock?
We're at 7 too. So,
Got an answer.
we-
Talkies.
we gotta.
I move to postpone the planning board meeting on the 1st.
If we're gonna have multiple things that are gonna contradict each board doing, instead of wasting each other's time, would it be a joint meeting for 2 of the properties? Because, not 2 of them, this one, you guys haven't had the other one yet. It'll come before you if they file the application. Or just have it separate and make sure the secretary's up to date, you guys.
which one are you doing? 314 Plymouth or another one?
This one here.
Yeah, no, I know what you
No, we
said,
got,
there's two.
we got 314 Plymouth, that was
We have-
continued to our next meeting too.
Which is December 1st or the 22nd?
22nd.
Oh, okay.
We have 31 Ocean Ave still on our agenda, and we've got a lot of club work to do with other things going on before. But no town administrator, no board of selectmen.
Yeah. Well, that's changed now.
No agent and other stuff, so as this has changed and we're getting rolling, hopefully things will go much nicer.
Okay, so, yeah, I
Things will
agree.
get done.
So 592, what if we, so you want to see if we could have a meeting at some time at the same, so I'll talk to Joanne and you talk to Deb.
Yeah,
All right.
if we got, I just don't see the point.
I
If we say postpone.
No, I'm
But
kidding.
why-
No, yeah.
Why wait, why
kidding.
waste everybody's time and have all the residents come in, or half of them be in one spot and another
Right.
half be some at your meeting and trying to text and ask questions, or, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And we don't Zoom upstairs like you guys do. We don't have, all the fancy stuff upstairs.
Oh, you weren't at the last meeting? We didn't have anything fancy going on in that meeting.
Me and you.
Yeah, that was, it's about as fancy as it got. 30-minute monologue.
Can we mention just a couple of things? Well,
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to prolong, everybody wants to go or whatever, but just about that site again, I went and checked out the site that the guy was talking about where they already have the house and behind the insurance company there. They have a building. It looks typical, almost like the building that they're going to build. It's a pretty big building. But what I saw behind it was kind of it was concerning a little bit. There's a bunch in the back of it, all kinds of construction trucks and front end loaders and cars that may have been there for a little while. And I don't know. My question, that's fine. It's over there and it's off the road. No one sees it and the whole bit. One of my questions would be, what's the plan on parking private vehicles or work vehicles in the back there?
And what kind of businesses are they doing?
Still,
Like they say
We don't know
retail.
yet.
They
So
said it was
when-
gonna be an office for their cranberry growing business, with people who were gonna, no, on the first floor. They were gonna have people come in, be able to sample their product, buy their product, whatever it was. And then upstairs, they would rent the units out upstairs to whether it's like a dentist or a doctor or whatever it is
But they
upstairs.
weren't really sure yet.
But they're not sure, and that's what we have to be
are they
aware
gonna
of,
be
is they're
like
not
open?
sure, because I'm hearing different things, and it's not.
Well, so it's in front of us and we're gonna have to narrow that all down.
will they, do you have the power to say or ask what's going to be in the building, and then if they come back and say, we're really not sure yet, since they own the building, since they own the property, since they can actually do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Well, we have to,
I'm just
so part of
wondering-
the site plan is that they have to have enough parking.
Right.
So we need to determine that, and in order to determine how much parking they need, we need to know what's going to be in the building. And then if they're going to add or change something, they need to come back and make sure that they have enough parking. in
Right,
order
like
to
you can't
do
put
that.
you couldn't zone it for a dentist office and then all of a sudden put in a tequila bar up there without coming back to us and making sure it's okay.
Or could it be heavy?
Don't get all
Heavy
excited.
equipment.
Jeez, look at
We would
that.
stop complaining if that's what they were gonna build.
And you can say no to that?
Like it could be
I didn't say no to what?
24 wheels
Like a
coming in.
tequila-
and out.
Can we
finish the sidewalks though?
Well, first of all, I don't think that we'd have another liquor license too.
Well, yeah, but something, you could say no if they want to change.
That's on the next week. That'll be December 1st.
Yeah. But I think that, like, when they come back, all of these questions in front of them and making them answer
Right,
would be the way to go.
right.
Just know that from my, what I took from that gentleman's presentation, he's very articulate, very smart, which is good to have in a meeting like this when there's a lot of questions. But I would assume he's going to default to, it's our building, it's our property. If you
Right.
zone it for
Right, that's
rental,
what I
then
said.
we have the right to, as right,
No, not if it's
Yeah.
on wetlands and conservation land that he shouldn't be and needing a variance. I know. I'll be fighting that.
Variances only should be given if they have a hardship
Yeah,
and if it will not be a detriment to the rest of the
yeah,
town.
that's right.
Do we know what kind of structure it's gonna be? Is it just gonna be a metal fab building, or is it gonna be?
Oh, no,
Oh,
No,
no,
it
we put
has
it
to
in,
pass
it looks
the
like a
sewer.
real house.
Yeah, it's more of a house.
House.
Yeah.
and it looks very.
And
It's gonna be like brick and
proposed.
wood and stuff like that.
I like to say it's proposed because it's not gonna be unless they pass all the tests.
I will
So
say this,
proposed.
I was worried about that as well, when they didn't come to the first meeting where we said no
Yeah.
across the board. Then when he came and showed what it looked like, if it's done right, it would look really nice. It would look really nice, if it's in everybody's best
Well,
interest,
I
obviously,
think
but.
the main thing too is the
Yeah.
traffic and,
Well, that's the other
That's
reason that we
already crazy.
exist, is the traffic.
Mhm.
So we have to ask all the.
safety issue. yeah.
That's better than a metal frame
That's
building.
why we're here.
So it could be this beautiful building, but it doesn't matter
Duly
if it's
noted.
not coincide with
That's right.
the neighborhood, because I wouldn't care if the building's made of gold,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's right across the street from my house, if it's a safety issue with traffic and
How about the traffic?
accidents.
Okay.
and-
What's the latest on the traffic?
So only
Well, we
because,
won't know until we get the plan in front of us. So I think right now we should know that the next meeting, when they're here, we'll have all the questions, and it's kind of where we need to leave it right now, because we're about an hour late on our 7:30.
I have one point, when they said that they were gonna use their office space for testing their product and things like that, did they elaborate if they
No.
were gonna be like Ocean Spray when they were in Hanson?
No, they did not.
Who used their office?
No,
Not
but it
only
would
the
be
taste
great
products-
if everybody would show up and ask these questions when when they're here, because we can only what if this
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
And we want to watch out for legalities.
No, I know that,
So-
but something for the board to think about is,
Yeah.
are they gonna be making lipstick? Are they going to?
Well, that would be manufacturing
perfumes
and that would be like
different kind of
industrial
stuff
and
like
then
that?
therefore,
It,
Yeah, bringing.
they were in a
chemicals.
resident, Ocean
What?
Spray was in a residential neighborhood and
Hold
got
on.
away with it.
Time out,
so
time out,
I'm
time
just
out.
saying,
We need
thinking
to-
about
Hold
it.
on,
Yeah.
we're going down a deep
Yeah.
rabbit hole,
yeah, we
and
need
So
to
we'll
know.
wait.
they've asked, yeah.
Wait,
We just have to, these are all great points. It's not that they're not good valid points, but without them here to
Right.
answer those
Yeah.
questions, it's all speculative.
yeah. it's
That's
there.
good.
But keep coming,
All right.
okay?
We'll be here, baby.
Happy Thanksgiving,
I
anybody.
know, you guys have a good holiday,
See you
huh?
guys.
See you.
All right, happy holiday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, you guys as well.
All right, we have a 7:30, we have Casco, Steve Doms. Steve?
So we'll wait.
Got real close.
Hi, sorry we're running so late tonight. Oh,
Oh, get the audio.
Hold on one sec, we gotta hear you.
oh.
You might be muted.
No, I can hear him a little bit.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, so there's something not,
I don't know if there's a way you can turn up on your end. I'm talking loud.
yeah, you're good. Caesar, can you turn it up?
Okay,
Caesar,
great.
can you turn it up a little bit?
I don't think I can do any turning from my side.
It's getting right out of me. I heard a voice coming out of the computer. I thought I was going crazy.
How about now? Say something now.
Test, test, test. Hello, hello.
Yes.
Yep, there's a delay, but that's good.
Sure.
Hi.
Great. Do you want me to share my screen? Let me share my screen here.
Okay. So,
Host, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
I can fix that.
He's gonna fix that.
okay.
This is the one.
All right.
Hi, guys.
Right.
It's still telling me that I can't share my screen.
Okay,
Yeah,
try
he's-
now.
Try now? Okay, let's try now. Ah, perfect. Okay, let me get the screen up. Hopefully you're able to see the screen now.
It's coming. Yep,
There you go.
Okay, so you can see the site plan?
yep.
Great. Thank you. So I appreciate you helping us get this process started on this site. We've been kind of working through this with the developer. I represent the developer. I'm with Casco. We have a civil engineering, et cetera. So I'm representing the developer. We've been kind of working through this site going back to April, and I finally got to the point where we can at least kind of start taking the steps here. As the plan shows, we're looking to develop the site with a Starbucks, an urgent care, and then what is likely going to be an AutoZone auto parts store. We've adhered to the parking requirements for each of the uses. We're still in the stages of collecting some information to be able to move forward with stormwater design. We've had our perk test done to work on our septic design.
Conservation?
We should be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Conservation?
I'm sorry.
Have you been to conservation?
We have, as far, well, to the extent so far, of course, we went to conservation to get the approvals to do the perk test, to do the soils borings. Those tests have already been, well, the perk tests were done roughly a month ago. The soils borings were actually done today or being finished up tomorrow. So conservation has seen this site plan. So now when you say you haven't been to conservation, that's the extent of us being in front of conservation. I pulled up just the elevations too. I can toggle back to the site plan, just whatever you're going to have up on the screen here.
Sure. Don't take our silence as anything other than the site plan gurus over here are checking everything out.
No worries. I apologize. I'm not as good as using Zoom as I am Teams, and so I can't figure out how to make your screen bigger now. So you guys are the size of a.
So if you click see the 9 dots at the top of your small screen,
Yeah.
click that, and then it'll give you the ability to drag and drop to expand, the picture.
Oh, let's see. Oh, I thought I had it.
Nope, no.
Oh, that's getting better. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that technical support. You guys are still very small. Okay.
All right, so hover over your face.
Okay.
Okay. Do you see at the top how there's 9 dots? Were you controlling
I
that?
see them over to the left. Yes.
That's not what he wants to hit.
Yeah, that'll make it full screen.
No, he's saying that.
I've got you guys, but your screen much bigger
So you
now.
want to share your screen?
Yeah.
If you change the view on where the camera is, then you can drag this left corner like that, and then it becomes an
I'm gonna
overlap.
ask, do you think that he's asking for
Yeah.
waivers on?
I think he's full screen, you just can't see us very.
On the sign included,
Yeah, he didn't X anything for what it was, right?
but he left a lot of things blank.
Did he?
Maybe he wants to do it.
Are you still seeing my screen?
Unless you-
Yeah, we're good.
Why?
We can see you and the site plan is
Oh,
full
okay,
screen.
okay.
Some of these
So you're good.
flavor equipment.
As far as as far as our side goes, where we need to be.
Okay, great, okay. I've got you much bigger now on my screen.
There you go.
So, Steve, right?
I may need to relay it.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know if you could hear me.
Oh, yeah, okay. On your application for site plan review, there's a lot of blank spaces that were not marked included or waiver. I'm gonna assume that you needed a waiver on most of those, and they weren't Xed on waiver.
Well, we're not seeking any waivers. There's certain items there that we wanted to go ahead and start the process knowing that obviously we're not in position yet to provide stormwater, like our stormwater analysis for our detention pond. We are still, it's taken, I'm not sure why, but it's taken forever to get the property surveyed with topographic information. Basically getting all to survey. I mean, we're getting, our surveyor has piecemealed us some information, but we're missing information that we would need to be able to finalize some of those other items on the list. But we would not be seeking any waivers that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, some of them I think that you will need to have waivers on, but I also would let you know that we haven't received any of the letters from other boards yet, that isn't due until the 23rd of November. And
Okay.
so like some of those things need to come in. And also, do you know how much of this property has an easement with the left, the one that this was subdivided off of?
Yes, now speaking of easements, and I don't know if you can see my hand on the screen moving, but what would be the essentially, I guess, the northwest corner of the property, the seller of the property has basically, and I understand there's a whole separate petition for them to develop some storage buildings or storage facilities to the south.
Yep.
And in order to do that, they had to have connectivity still with some property along Plymouth. So
Yep.
essentially what they're going to do, and our client is under contract to purchase this property, but they're going to have to chunk off a piece and give us an easement, a permanent easement here for parking in this area here that I'm flat moving around with my hand. Hopefully that makes sense.
So am I right to I'm gonna talk to the board, so if you can't hear me, I apologize. Am I right to, am I correct to think that this is more of just an introduction to what that
pretty much
is?
what I
Just like a, hey, we're here, we got a lot of work to do?
This is what we got in our mind, and what do you think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of.
Yeah, so before we start going down, yeah.
So, would you think that this is just an introduction, Steve?
Yeah, I believe that would be our intent. I mean, obviously, we want to work as efficiently and as promptly through the overall process as we can to obviously keep our client moving down the path of, they have deadlines of when they need to close on the property, and they can obviously ask for extensions. So this is kind of an introduction to get this in front of the board. I'll actually be coming back in front of the board in 2 weeks we applied for the special permit to allow the drive-through for the Starbucks, because if that permit were to be looked on unfavorably, that will present great challenges to this project to be able to move forward if we cannot be able to get Starbucks a drive-through.
So would it be prudent for us to continue this to that same date, December 1st, along with the special permit? And also,
I would be, I apologize, I know there's a delay here. I was going to say, I'd be all right with that.
you'd be what?
Yeah.
You'd be all right with that?
I would be.
Can you be in
Yeah.
person for that meeting?
Yes, I can either, or I can have one of my other engineers in my office.
It just might be easier because Zoom is so difficult, and it's so much better to have somebody here that can go over, because this plan that you're showing as you're pointing it out, we can't read any of it. It's all teeny and it's not the
Yeah,
best.
understood. Yeah, I'd have to zoom it in.
But I also, I don't, so I go back to the point of, before we start going down the rabbit hole of asking some of the in-depth conversations that are going to go into this very big conversation, I think if your intent was to introduce the idea and the topics so that you can do your due diligence with the other boards and the other parts of the checklist, so that you can come back to us with a more complete project or paperwork, that will at least allow us to be able to have the full conversation at another date. That's what I would.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Right. So at this point, do we open it to the public to have questions? But then so here's the thing, there's gonna be a lot of questions about this project.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're there yet, so before we open that can of worms, it's almost like, is it I can see it like bouncing, right? So hold on, so let me just get this so that we're all on the same page with this.
Yeah.
They are going to come back,
Yeah.
obviously. And I think that with the engineers in person, it would probably be the best time to go down that path. Unless there's really something that you're not gonna be able to sleep over tonight, then ask it. But other than that, I would say most of the town of Halifax is probably gonna show up to have this conversation, now that we know what is planned.
So the far right big rectangle.
Hold on,
is-
let's say your name for
Oh,
the
sorry, Mary
record.
Gravity, sorry, just one, so the far right building, the rectangle, that's the auto zone?
Yes.
And the other two is the medical and
Medical and
Starbucks
Starbucks.
together?
Correct.
Can I ask one question? Why another auto zone right behind another car?
That's not their, they don't care about that.
Okay.
That's it's completely separate. That's for us, that's for us to decide. We care, but them as their project, you to ask them that's not on their
Okay.
plate to care.
Erica Rossini, 6 Deer Run. At the prior zoning meeting that we came to, that a bunch of the people were here, they made it under the impression that you weren't going to get into these properties through Plymouth Street. It was gonna be through that set of lights that are going in for the storage facility.
And now they're
But now
adding.
it looks
Now you
like they
have-
have an in and out.
That ain't gonna work.
And then if you have, I count 10 cars in that drive-through, we all know Dunkin' Donuts is a disaster every morning.
Could be the same thing.
It,
And I thought they were gonna be 400 feet off the road.
I don't know, is Halifax more of a Dunks or a Starbucks community?
I'm in either, I drink
No.
water strictly.
That was a bad joke, sorry.
All right, yeah.
So that was just,
So yeah, so these are all good points to bring up, and obviously let's just get, let's address them.
Frank Johnston, Elm Street. So you're not using the same entrance as the proposed storage in the back?
No.
No.
But there's actually two entry points, you are correct. The one entry is on the, what would be the west side, or the southwest side. And then there's a secondary entry or exit point also that's, I don't know how much of the screen you can see here, but
So not sure.
it's basically between the auto parts store and the Starbucks, more towards the northwest corner of the property.
So which one has got the traffic light?
That one.
That one there. So they're not really showing.
Here.
All right. So you're gonna come back on December 1st? Well, and
Yes, but
also,
I am scheduled for December 1st for the hearing on the special permit. Now, so I don't get crossways with you when I show up there in person on December 1st. Some of those items still on that list, though, I mean, this has been provided to the other board or the other groups you're talking about. But I would obviously not have time if they had any comments to try. That's 2 weeks from now. I don't know that we would be able to update much on the plans in 2 weeks.
so do you
The
wanna,
plans themselves are pretty much would look the same.
okay. So you're looking for a special permit on something before we even approve a site plan?
Well, because the way I understand it, that I have to get the special permit, obviously, for the Starbucks, and if the special permit is not looked favorably to allow a drive-through, that could kill the project, I guess, it could kill the deal.
Okay.
So it's the chicken or the egg,
So,
Okay.
right? So that's what
Right.
it
it
is.
is,
So
yeah.
we're gonna do that on the 1st?
On
Okay?
the first, yes.
Okay. Thank you for this introduction. Do you have anything else you want to say or state?
No, like I said, I'm looking forward to working with the town, the developer, obviously this is something that they're very, enthusiastic in wanting to work with the town to make it happen. So I'll look forward to seeing you in person on the 1st.
All right, thank you,
All
Steve.
right, thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you for your patience.
Have a good evening, yes, happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
All right,
All
bye-bye.
right, bye. Okay.
So, next topic.
We have discussion of Loco Larry Tacos, and I just want to state that I did put in disclosures on this to let anybody know that I have worked with you in the past and that I did have a formal family relation with the owner of the property. Just so that everybody knows I did my homework.
So I don't know if you guys got a plan already, just want to give you a quick, mine's quick and easy.
Don't.
All right. So here,
Yeah, I got you.
this is the property, this whole property here. All I'm trying to do is put my taco trailer, if anyone wants me there, right here. And my trailer's 14 feet, this is 150 feet that way. We have all this parking, all the way down there. He's even giving me keys to the restrooms, so we have public restrooms. So if you have a concern with that. I remember I tried a couple of years ago, the parking was too small across the post office. We needed more parking, how people get in and out. 18-wheelers turn around there. So there's plenty of way to get, I'm not gonna be like Dunkin' Donuts.
Yep, I know.
That'd be crazy. And I'm just a mobile trailer, I'm only looking for a few days a week, just to keep my girls employed, you know what I mean? So,
Got it.
you know me, in the summertime, you won't even see me around.
So will they be parking in here?
Yep, there's gonna be signs out front here saying, please park in rear. And
Okay.
I'll have cones laid out, local Larry's parking spaces down here, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I think I have like 50, 60
And,
spots.
and you don't wanna do anything like instead of being, is this so that you have vision?
I have
from the
vision so
street?
people can actually see me.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm set back here, it's pointless.
It's like the truck that parks
Okay.
at Muckies on 44. Like people pull in. and park
Pirate,
in the market.
yeah, they got their big trailers right there as well, but they'll be way behind me, they're set way back here. Their trailer's like way back over here. I'm like basically 6 feet from,
If anybody wants to see,
what's the
please
address,
come on
where
up.
are you going?
It's, 9.
Right across from Johnny Macaroni's.
You go by Parowitz then?
Yeah, right in front of Parrott's trailer.
Yeah.
So like.
So I'm gonna put a I wanna put a taco trailer there. You do online ordering,
Yeah.
tacos, burritos, quesadillas, nachos, something different for the town. I've been trying to put something in for the last couple of years, you know?
We'll
Really
have
tough, you know?
we'll have to see, yeah, I know, you've gone through a lot. Have you asked the building inspector what kind of sign would have to be there?
No, well, this is my first step.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to the next meeting, but I wanna run it through you
Yeah.
guys.
Well, at least you have a site plan that you can work with
Well,
here.
this is the original site plan.
Yeah.
I had a copy of it.
Well, this is the approved, yeah.
Yeah, so, last time I bought that little one and you guys laughed me out of there.
I did not, for the record. I'd like to show for the record, I did not laugh him out of anywhere.
I also didn't laugh at you. Okay, it looks good, Larry. Are you gonna make an appointment to come in?
December 17th is the next one, I believe, right?
The first and then the 17th.
I would swear
First, the sooner the better.
December 1st, and then the next one is when?
17th.
Thank you.
Or
Oh,
15th.
wait, the first.
No.
I think it have to be the 17th. I have surgery on the first.
December 15th.
You can send in Cheryl.
Oh, shit. I'll ask her, but, you know what I mean? I'd like to get a little with,
Okay.
these girls wanna get in, like, they wanna work because Christmas is coming.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, no, my private and corporate lunches are all slowing down. They want full-time hours. They want to leave their other jobs. I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do, you know what I mean?
So my advice would be to go into the building inspector and ask what kind of a sign.
I talked to him over there. He had no issue with it either. You just have to go in front of the board, so. I told you, I'm already permitted by the fire department and board of health. So anything else, pretty much. Anybody have an issue with that, Thomas?
All good.
Was the site got questions, so it's just like a temporary?
No, I want to make it permanent because I
Yeah.
am buying a brand new trailer. It'll be a second one, it'll be lighter than this one.
Lighter than your other one?
And this one will be permanent. I like to make it permanent if it builds up. I'd like to give it a drive and see if the town wants it, you know?
Picnic tables?
Hmm?
Do you like do picnic tables and stuff, or is it just?
Yeah, well, I can now because of bathrooms. So we do have his and her bathrooms there because the guys will be, use those. There'll be picnic table in the warmer seasons. You can go out there, maybe I can get an ABC license for liquor.
Margaritas. Oh, wow.
Sangrias.
One thing at a time. Let's figure out the sign. Let's figure out the sign.
Margaritas in the
Figure out the sign,
And
yeah.
samples.
Everybody.
Yeah, something like that, you know what I mean? But
Careful, they're gonna ask for sidewalks next, so we gotta get out of here. Gotta get out of here while you can.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody.
right now she's working at the brewery.
Oh, awesome.
She's like, I'm all done. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I want to give you a quick run through what we said the plan.
Yeah, have the sign.
This is way more
have
room
the
than
sign and
before.
everything on there. Like, show it on the site plan.
Well, I can have make signs and bring in the signs what they'll look like. You know what I
And
mean?
show, yeah, to
It'll
show.
say parking in the rear, all that stuff.
Yeah, that way it'd be totally prepared to have all that stuff.
Yeah, here's the signs, this is what they look like. I'll make them with lights on, no, I'm just kidding, I won't do that. Too much flash. They won't approve the signs and stuff like that.
Perfect.
Sweet.
That's how easy that was.
Happy Thanksgiving.
See that?
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right, you too.
Have a good one.
Wanna read-
Good luck with the surgery.
You want
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to read all that?
Do I want to?
Yeah, you have to read the invoices.
Oh.
Do you want me to?
Sure, no, I
don't
can
mind
read them. I've never done it before, but that's all right. Let's.
Take the bill invoice number.
All right. Motion to.
Yeah, I know, that's why I handed it to you.
Motion to pay invoice number A11405CL to running in Plimpton, Halifax, Kingston Express for the amount of $90.
Can I get a second on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On the bill, invoice number 233748165 from the Town of Halifax Zoning Board of Appeals to pay WB Mason $56.11.
Zoning Board of Appeals?
Of course, that's what it said up here. Or no, is that what we're just gonna talk about? To pay a bill for WB Mason.
Okay. Perfect. Invoice, you said 233748165?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Motion to pay the bill to Amory Engineering, invoice number 16010 in the amount of $351.
Okay, do you have a second, a motion? I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Alright. And meeting minutes. How are the meeting minutes for everybody?
Good for me, I was there.
Okay. The only thing that I have is that, I asked, on the second page, halfway down, Attorney Brodsky asks if the board will please allow him to address the petition. Troop responds no, as the board was deciding who participate. Troop adds that they will mute Brodsky. Between will participate and Troop adds that they will mute Brodsky, there was numerous times that I asked him to not speak and he wouldn't, and then I did warn him. So I would ask Joanne to add that there was multiple times that I did ask him to not speak before I told him I would have to mute him. That needs to be added. Anybody have any problem with that? Because otherwise I would motion that with that change I just stated of adding multiple times, I would be okay with the rest of the minutes.
So you need me to move that so that, because you're the
Sure.
chair, so I'll move that motion.
Or we could have her rewrite it and bring it up at the next meeting. Okay. Do you have a second on the motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And any correspondence or anything like that that anybody would like to discuss or hold over? There's a public meeting that already happened, so that doesn't matter, right? Other
Congratulations to our new Board of Selectmen.
business? Yeah. We have a reorganization of John Bruno as chair, vice chair Jonathan Seelig, clerk Najim Nazarella. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, 8:30.